Good evening. My name is Joan.
And I'm Derek.
Thank you for joining us on Below the Surface. You might be wondering what Below the Surface is all about. Well, tonight, Below the Surface is going a little bit deeper, beyond the superficial, beyond asking about the weather, going to the inner man where change happens. Derek here, before he and I were created, God had a plan that our paths would cross. So when I met Derek, it was as if we were living a parallel faith. We'd both had some similarities there.
Yes.
Derek, we know we live in a broken world, yet it was redeemed. And we are mortal, living in mortal bodies, yet we have an eternal spirit inside. Your testimonies, though, your stories, take the Jesus from off the pages of the Bible to become living flesh in your stories. He moves in a very real way to the hidden places where the naked eye can't see. And so that's what I'm hoping we can cover tonight. To encountering God from spirit to spirit. And after that, we will see fruit, which will be revealed in the days to come. So, Derek, will you begin by sharing with us a bit of your story, or shall I talk about how we met?
Yeah, I know. That's a story in itself. But, no, it's just a huge honor to be doing this. God laid it on my heart, as you know, which I'm sure that story will come out.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'll just start, and then we'll go from there. I don't know how long it'll take, but we'll just take it one step at a time. So literally, my story starts at birth. And it starts, when I wasn't coming out straight in the birth canal. And so the doctors, they were trying their best. They went with high forceps and turned me. And that's when everything went wrong. I stopped breathing. I stopped emergency cesarean, and they took me out. And it was a very trying time for my parents. And so they basically said, your son's not going to make it in 2 weeks. Like, good luck. And in fact, it was during that time, because of this time, we were at a Catholic hospital, so they asked to bring a priest in. And my dad said, no. God's given me this son, and he's gonna live. He's gonna live. So I think that's a crucial part of my story, because the words that we speak, what is it in Proverbs? Death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Yes.
Literally, death and life are in the power of my dad's tongue. And he trumped that curse with life. And that's a big reason why I'm here today. And so, of course, the priest didn't come. And the pastors just came and prayed over me, our pastors at the time. And that evening, after they prayed, they began removing all the tubes.
Wow.
Out of,
Thank you, Jesus.
and just like, you don't need this, you don't need that. And then they began to say, well, if he's gonna live, he's gonna be a vegetable, like you're not gonna walk or talk.
Wow.
Kind of thing. And that's just a testimony in itself, because we walked upstairs coming up here.
Yes.
So there you go, and I'm talking, so that in itself is amazing. And so, life went on, and I learned how to walk with when my sister learned how to walk. I was about a year and a half, and my sister came along, and we learned to walk together, and saw improvements. And as we saw these improvements, my dad got led went to actually see a lawyer, and
Yes.
and he said this is what happened, and the lawyer said it's a slam dunk case, like it's malpractice.
Yes.
So my dad thought of it, and at the time he was reading, and I believe it's Matthew 18 about the unforgiven servant, and just how this servant went before the king and had a debt of like $2 million, and and the king forgave him and said, I release you for that. That servant went out and found someone who owed him $50 and threw him in jail. The king found out about that and said, you wicked servant, I forgave you this much. How can you not even forgive someone for so little, And he ended up throwing the first servant in prison. Anyways, my dad read that, and he felt compelled, and he shared this story with the doctor that did this malpractice, and he said, I'm that first servant that's forgiven for so much. And he said, so it would be unjust for me not to forgive you. And he forgave the doctor. And I've forgiven the doctor because he didn't mean to harm me.
Right?
He was just doing split-second things, and and so I went on living and registered in a regular school, and there were little things I needed help with. So when I was 6, my mom was flat on her back.
Flat on her back.
Yeah, couldn't move.
Okay.
She was in the hospital for 16 days and sent my dad home with saying she has a rare bone disease. Here's some drugs. Go home, have a good life.
Oh my goodness.
So here, my dad had 4 kids under the age of 6. Running his own business, and a wife who couldn't move. Took her half an hour to walk to the washroom and back. Like, just severe pain.
Severe pain.
Yeah, and just tried everything to get rid of it. Chiropractor, acupuncture, everything. And finally we found a chiropractor, naturopath kind of thing, and Mom was very reluctant because every time she would go, it would be more pain.
Okay.
But she went, and he said, if I can help you, in 3 visits, you have to go down the road kind of thing.
Right.
And he discovered that he looked her over and said, have you had an operation? And Mom said, yeah, my wisdom teeth got pulled out. He said, well, your head's off the base of your spine.
Oh my goodness.
And so when they were yanking and pulling her head, they pushed it off.
They dislocated her head from the top of her spine.
Yeah. So he put her head on straight. And she walked out of there like, a whole lot less pain, but walked out of there. And so they got excited and they said, we got to bring Derek here. So that's when I went there. And we explained to him my birth story and everything, and he said, you won't believe this, but he thinks what happened at birth was they turned my head and pushed it off the base of my spine.
Wow.
So, yeah, like, that in itself is a story how the enemy tries to use something for evil
Yes.
and uses it for good. Like, God didn't plan for that operation for my mom to go through that. That wasn't his will.
No.
But he used it not only for my mom to get better, but for me. Anyways, after that adjustment, I could turn around in a circle for the first time in my life. I could take 20 steps without falling. Like, even if you held my hand, I couldn't move forward, you know.
The emotion you must have had in those first moments.
And I was living with pain I didn't know was pain. And so from that point on, you know, I began to just develop a lot more and just, you know, that in itself was just a huge step in the right direction. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. When God says he redeems things, he means he will redeem all things.
Yeah.
Wow. What a wonderful part of the story.
Yeah. So.
And there's so many more stories to go.
There is. And God has done so, he's been faithful. So faithful. And, yeah. So.
And for your father to have made the decision to forgive the doctor, and for you to have forgiven the doctor as well.
Yeah.
And God is still able to take those situations.
Yes.
And
use it for good.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's what redemption is all about, right?
Yes,
He steps into the situation and circumstance.
Yeah.
And changes it.
Yes, he does.
Oh, thank God for God.
So, yes, and so every day, I believe God has healed me, and you're gonna hear that over and over, and it's not a matter of asking God, and that's been a transition I've had to go through too, is going from asking God for healing to thanking Him for healing. And so every day now I thank him for healing. And you're gonna see it. We're gonna see it happen.
That's the crucial thing about why I think the Holy Spirit has had us come together and make these videos, because as you are sharing your story, we're going to see the fruit of what it is you have believed for so long will actually transpire, and then our video audience will be able to see this Jesus that we talk about from this book is spirit, and we are spirit, and the two can meet.
Yes.
And that's where the power is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited about the journey we're going to go on together, and there's still so many stories about how we met and all the encounters you have had with the Spirit of God that has just brought you through something that just seemed like a brick wall. He just would crack it open for you and bring you past that threshold into something more, something new.
Yeah.
And so we're just so grateful that you have joined us today on Below the Surface. And we encourage you too that take time to speak to Jesus. He is the real thing, the real deal. And he will walk with you below the surface to where the inner part gets transformed. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.